Somewhere in the Pacific, at the bottom of the ocean, there is a piece of money. It's a stone disc as tall as a person, and it sank during a storm hundreds of years ago. No one has seen it since, and yet, for generations, people kept spending it, buying land, paying for weddings, trading a giant coin that nobody could touch, sitting in the dark on the seafloor. This isn't a glitch. It's the closest thing we have to the secret of what money actually is, because money is probably the most powerful thing humans have ever invented. It builds cities and starts wars. It decides who eats and who goes hungry. And here's the part nobody tells you. It isn't real. There is no such thing as money in nature. We conjured it out of thin air and then convinced the entire planet to believe in it. So how did we do that? Go from nothing at all to a world run on coins, paper, and glowing numbers on a screen? The answer isn't a single invention. It's a long, strange chain of accidents and ideas, and almost everything you were taught about it is wrong. To see how it really happened, we have to throw out the most famous story about money first, then follow the trail through debt, through cows and shells, through the first coins ever struck, all the way to the money in your pocket right now. Let's start with the story you've definitely heard, the one about barter. It goes like this. Long ago, before money, people traded things directly. You've got chickens, I've got an axe. We swap, but barter has an obvious flaw. What if I want your chickens, but you don't want my axe? Now I have to find someone who wants an axe and has something you want. And on and on. It's a nightmare. So the story says, clever humans invented money to fix it, a single thing everyone would accept, so trade could flow. It's a beautiful, logical story. There's just one problem. According to the people who actually study this, it's almost entirely made up. When researchers went looking for a real society that ran on pure barter and then invented money to escape it, they couldn't find one. It's not how early communities worked. If you lived in a small village and your neighbor needed food, you didn't haggle over how many eggs a fish was worth. You just gave them the fish, and they remembered. Later, when you needed something, they'd help you out. What actually held these communities together wasn't trading. It was debt, favors owed. I've got you now, you've got me later. An invisible web of who owes what, running entirely on memory and trust. And that is the real seed of money. Not coins, not gold, debt. Here's where it gets concrete. Around 5,000 years ago, in the temples and palaces of ancient Mesopotamia, that web of favors got too big to just remember. Cities were now home to thousands of people. The temple was owed grain by farmers, owed labor by workers, and owed goods by traders, and no human brain could keep track of it all. So they did something revolutionary. They started writing the debts down. They pressed marks into clay tablets. This person owes the temple this much barley. And to make the accounting consistent, they needed a standard unit to measure all these different debts against. That unit was the shekel, originally just a specific weight of barley. Suddenly, you could compare a debt of grain to a debt of labor to a debt of silver, all in the same currency. This was money. But notice there were no coins anywhere. The first money wasn't a thing you held. It was a number in an account, a record of who owed what. Money was born as bookkeeping, but writing debts on clay only works inside one city, where everyone trusts the same temple. What happens when you want to trade with a stranger from somewhere else who doesn't know you and never will? You can't pay them in "trust me, I'm good for it." You need something physical, something they can hold, that has value everywhere. And so, alongside the ledgers, humans reached for the second great form of money, commodity money. Stuff that was valuable in itself. And this is where it gets wonderfully weird, because money has been some genuinely strange things. For huge stretches of history, wealth meant cattle. A rich man was a man with cows, walking, mooing wealth that could pull a plow and make more of itself. All over the world, people used livestock as money, but cows have a problem. You can't make change. You cannot cut a live cow in half to pay for a basket of apples without ruining both the apples and the cow. So people looked for something smaller, more durable, harder to fake. And again, on completely different continents, they landed on the same answer. Shells. Cowrie shells. Small, tough, nearly impossible to counterfeit. became one of the most widely used currencies in all of human history, spreading across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. People also used salt, beads, blocks of tea, even whale teeth. The pattern never changes. Find something durable, portable, and hard to get, and a community can agree to treat it as money. Which brings us back to that stone at the bottom of the ocean. On the island of Yap, in the Pacific, people used money you absolutely cannot put in your pocket. Giant discs of limestone called rye stones, some 12 feet across, weighing more than a car. Islanders sailed to distant islands, quarried the stone, and hauled it home across open sea, which made them rare and valuable. But here's the genius part. Because the huge ones were nearly impossible to move, people mostly didn't move them. When a rye stone changed hands, the rock often stayed exactly where it was. Everyone simply agreed, out loud, that it now belonged to someone new, which is why the stone that sank still counted. When a crew lost an enormous rye stone to a storm on the way home, the islanders decided that the stone was real, its Mauesian quality were known, and just because it now sat on the seafloor didn't make it worthless. Its owner could still spend it, and for generations, they did. Sit with that, because it's the whole secret. A piece of money that no one can see, touch, or move. That still works perfectly. It tells you that money was never really about the object at all. The cow, the shell, the giant stone, the coin, they're just tokens. The actual money is the shared agreement. The story everyone decides to believe together. Now all these commodities had one nagging flaw. Every time you traded, you had to check them, weigh the metal, test the purity, make sure the shells were real. It was slow, and it invited cheating. And the fix for that is the invention most people think of as the beginning of money. Even though by now money was already thousands of years old. Around 2,500 years ago, in the kingdom of Lydia, in what's now Turkey, someone had a brilliant idea. Take a lump of precious metal, fix its weight and purity, and stamp it with the mark of the king. Now you didn't have to weigh or test anything. The stamp was a promise. This contains exactly this much value, guaranteed by the crown. The coin was born, and it spread like wildfire. The Greeks, then the Romans, built whole worlds on it, and we've basically never stopped using them since. But notice what the coin really was. It wasn't valuable because it was metal. Plenty of metal wasn't money. It was valuable because of the stamp, because a trusted authority swore it was worth something, and everyone agreed to believe that promise. The same magic as the sunken stone, just pressed into gold. And that magic is exactly what you're holding today. Because a modern banknote isn't backed by gold in a vault anymore. It's just paper and a promise. The number in your bank account isn't even paper. It's a little glowing entry in a database, a direct descendant of those clay tablets in Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago. We went from writing debts in clay to trusting shells, to trusting a king's stamp, to trusting a screen. The form keeps changing. The function never does. So here's the truth that the sunken stone was trying to tell us all along. Money is not gold. It's not paper. It's not even the number on your phone. Money is a shared story. Maybe the most powerful story our species ever told. A collective agreement, invented not by a single genius, but by thousands of years of people trying to keep track of what they owed each other. It's an idea so convincing that we forget it's an idea at all. We treat it as solid as the ground, but it only works for exactly one reason. The same reason a stone at the bottom of the sea could buy a field on dry land. We all agree to believe it, and the moment we stop, it's just metal, paper, and a rock on the ocean floor.